Hey there, it's Adam speaking tonight. I'm glad you decided to join me. Maybe you're sitting in your living room with the lights turned low. Maybe you're lying in bed, staring at the ceiling just trying to quiet the noise of the day. Or maybe you're driving somewhere, let the road stretch out in front of you, keeping me company through the speakers. However you're here, I'm thankful. Nights like this, when the world slows down, we get the chance to notice things we often overlook. The hum of the refrigerator, the steady ticking of a clock on the wall, even the sound of our own breathing when the room is quiet enough. In those moments, the silence can feel heavy. It reminds us of what's missing, of who's missing, and sometimes it presses on our hearts in ways we can't quite explain. You know, I've come to believe we all carry stories we never tell. Not because we don't want to, but because they cut too deep, or maybe because we're afraid no one will really listen. That's why I started sharing these letters, because when someone finally finds the courage to put their truth on paper, it deserves to be heard. It deserves a witness. Tonight, the letter I'm holding is not an easy one. It's written by a son, an old man now. He looks back on the moment he failed his mother. She spent her last days in a nursing home, surrounded by strangers while he kept his distance. He tells us why, and he tells us what that regret has done to him ever since. This letter isn't polished, it shakes, it falters, but it's real. And maybe that's what makes it powerful, because somewhere in his words, we might hear our own unspoken fears, our own quiet guilt. So, if you're with me, take a breath, settle in. Let's walk together into the heart of this story. This is his letter. Well, here I am tonight, sitting at this old wooden desk with a pen that feels too heavy in my hand. The lamp casts a yellow glow over the paper, and the room is so still I can hear the clock ticking on the wall. My knees ache when I shift in the chair, and the silence presses against me like a weight I can't shake. I can't help but think of the first night I left you, Mum, in that nursing home. The hallway lights were harsh and white, buzzing overhead, and you looked so small in that bed. Your hand reached for mine, trembling, soft as paper, but I pulled away too soon, muttering something about being late for work. I remember the way your eyes followed me until the door closed, and now, decades later, I finally understand what I did. I thought I was sparing myself the pain of watching you fade, but the truth is, I was sparing only my own comfort, while you bore the loneliness alone. Tonight, sitting here, I feel that same emptiness pressing in on me, and I know it's the very same emptiness you once carried. You know, I still remember the smell of disinfectant in those halls, sharp, sterile, like it wanted to erase every trace of life, and the sound of rubber soles squeaking on the floor as nurses passed by. You sat by the window, your knitted scarf draped across your shoulders, even in summer. I see it so clearly. Dust in the sunlight, your hair thin and silver, your smile faint but waiting, always waiting for me to come. But I didn't come often. I told myself I was too busy, chasing deadlines, meetings, the next promotion. Truth is, I was running from the sight of your weakness, from the fear that one day it would be me sitting in that chair. And maybe I was listening too much to her voice. My wife's sharp whisper in my ear, telling me, "Your mother doesn't even notice half the time. Why waste the energy?" After all these years, those words echo louder than any memory. I let them in. I let them guide me. And because of that, Mom, you sat by that window alone, far more nights than you should have. Maybe it's the nights that hurt the most. When the house is quiet and the only company I have is the sound of that clock on the wall. I sit here with your old scarf folded neatly in the drawer beside me. Sometimes I take it out, hold it to my face, and I swear I can still catch the faint smell of lavender. It makes me close my eyes just to imagine you sitting across from me again. There was a time, Mom, when I did visit. I remember walking down that hallway, carrying a paper cup of coffee, feeling the heat seep through my fingers. I saw you before you saw me. You were knitting with shaky hands, the yarn slipping now and then, but your face lit up the moment I stepped in. We called my name softly, almost like a prayer answered. And yet, instead of staying, instead of pulling up a chair, I checked my watch. I told you I could only stay for a few minutes. I still see your smile falter just a little before you forced it back. That moment never left me. It taught me that love waits, even when it's met with disappointment. And now, all I'm left with is the memory of your waiting and my leaving. Truth is, I let the excuses pile up. Work, children, bills, the endless rhythm of life that never seems to pause. But if I'm honest, Mom, it wasn't just the busyness. It was the fear. Every time I walked into that room, I felt a shadow of my own future pressing against me. The frailty, the stillness, the way the world seemed to forget you once had a life full of laughter and strength. I couldn't face it. So I chose to look away. I can still hear her voice, my wife, saying, "He's comfortable enough. They have nurses, food, everything she needs. Stop tormenting yourself with guilt." Her words were sharp, practical, almost cold. And I nodded, because it was easier to agree than to argue. Easier to believe that distance was mercy. But sitting here now, I know what mercy isn't. Mercy isn't absence. So, tonight I sit here, an old man with nothing but echoes in these walls. The air feels heavy, like it remembers more than I want it to. When I close my eyes, I see the nursing home door. Oh, where have you noticed behind me that where we're I still remember walking you down that hall, Mum. You held my arm so tightly, your fingers digging in, as if you knew this was the beginning of the end. The lights flickered overhead, humming, in the smell of bleach mixed with something sour hung in the air. You looked at me, eyes searching for reassurance, and all I managed to say was, "It's for the best." Even now, those words taste bitter in my mouth. For the best? For whose best? I told myself it was mercy, that I was giving you care I couldn't provide. But deep down, I know it was cowardice. I didn't want to watch you fade. And in sparing myself, I abandoned you. I still remember the way you sat on that narrow bed, your shoulders bent, your scarf slipping off to the side. The sheets were stiff-packed too tight, like a hospital room pretending to be a home. You looked at me with those eyes, tired but gentle, and asked softly, "Will you come back soon?" "God, Mum," I said, "yes, I promised." But even as I spoke the words, I was already thinking about deadlines, meetings, the dinner waiting at home. And I remember her, my wife, standing just outside the door, arms crossed, tapping her heel on the floor. Later that night she said, "You did what you could. Don't drown yourself in it, she'll be fine." What breaks me is, you weren't fine. You were alone. And I let those cold words convince me to stay away, when every part of me should have been running back to you. If I had truly loved you the way you loved me, nothing would have kept me from your side. But I chose silence. I chose absence. And now absence is all I have left. Listen. The sound that comes back to me isn't your voice, it's the creak of that bed frame every time you tried to sit up straighter when I walked in. The metal groaned sharp and tired, just like your body. The smell of overcooked vegetables drifted from the cafeteria down the hall, and I remember wrinkling my nose trying to hide the discomfort. But you never complained. You smiled at me, thin and fragile, and asked if I'd eaten. Even then, you were thinking of me. I remember setting down a cup of coffee on the little table by your bed, the steam curled upward, mixing with the faint scent of the lotion the nurses used on your hands. You reached for the cup, but your hands shook too much, so I held it for you. Just for a moment our eyes met, and for that moment I felt like a child again, safe in your care. And yet, I broke it too quickly. I glanced at my watch, told you I couldn't stay long. Your lips curved into a smile, but your eyes dimmed. That look has never left me. Even now, when I close mine, I see it staring back, asking why I kept leaving. The thing about that time is, she was always there waiting outside your room. My wife, arms crossed, lips pressed thin. When I lingered too long, she would clear her throat, a sharp little sound that sliced through the silence like a knife. And later, in the car, she'd mutter, "You don't have to sit there for hours, you know." She barely notices. Nurses are paid to watch her. Don't waste yourself. Her words were practical, even logical to some, but they dripped with something colder. Something that gave me permission to walk away. And I took it. God help me. I took it. I let her impatience, her need for comfort, outweigh the duty of love I owed to you. Now, sitting alone, I hear that throat clear in my head, as clearly as I hear the ticking of this clock. It makes me wonder, did you hear it too, Mom? Did you notice her pulling me away? Did you feel me slipping further and further from your side? If you did, then the wound I carry now is nothing compared to the wound I carved into you back then. I still remember the way you sat by that narrow window, Mum. The glass was smudged, and beyond it the garden was just a patch of grass with a few tired bushes. But you looked out as if it were the wide world itself. When I walked in, you turned, your face lighting up, and for a moment I thought maybe my presence was enough to chase the loneliness away. You tried to tell me about the birds that sometimes landed near the feeder outside, your voice soft and excited, but I barely listened. My mind was already halfway back at the office. I nodded, smiled politely, and then, like always, I said I couldn't stay long. The chair beside your bed stayed empty while my phone buzzed in my pocket, and yet, when I stood to leave, you waved as if I'd given you hours instead of minutes. That wave, it breaks me now, because it wasn't gratitude, it was hope. Hope that maybe next time I'd stay. Hope that never came true. Here's the thing. She didn't make it easier. My wife. She would tug at my sleeve as I stood in your doorway, whispering, "We've got things to do, don't linger." Sometimes she'd sigh loud enough for you to hear, and I saw your smile falter just a little. But you never said a word against her. You just folded your hands in your lap, eyes down, waiting for me to choose. And I did choose. I chose her impatience over your need. I chose comfort over compassion. In the car ride home, she'd remark, "She looked fine. Stop torturing yourself. You're too sensitive." And I swallowed those words whole, letting them numb the guilt that was clawing inside me. But guilt as a way of surviving. It grows in the silence, in the empty spaces, in the memory of windows and half smiles. Tonight, sitting here, I know I didn't just leave you behind, Mom. I betrayed the very love you taught me. And no amount of silence can erase that truth. What I can't forget is the way you kept looking at that door after I left. I remember glancing back once, just before it swung shut, and there you were. Still sitting by the window, your hands folded neatly, eyes fixed on the hallway as if you were waiting for me to turn around. The fluorescent lights buzzed above and the air smelled of detergent and something faintly sour. It felt sterile, lifeless, and yet you sat there with such quiet dignity. I carried that image with me into the night. Driving home, headlights cutting through the dark, I tried to shake it off. I told myself you'd already forgotten, that your mind was fading and maybe it didn't matter. But deep down, I knew better. Love remembers. Even when memory falters, love holds on. And you were holding on, waiting for me, while I kept finding reasons to walk away. Sometimes, I hear her voice more clearly than yours. My wife, sitting beside me in the car, her perfume sharp, her tone sharper. "She doesn't know the difference," she'd say. "Why torture yourself? She's being cared for. Let it go." Her words sliced through me like a blade I pretended not to feel. And every time I nodded. Every time I chose the easy way out. But when I picture that room now, I don't see her logic, I see your silence. I hear the faint rattle of your breathing, the way the scarf slipped from your shoulder, the way the chair beside you stayed empty long after I had gone. That emptiness has followed me into this house, into this old age, into every night where the clock ticks and the shadows settle deep. The truth is, her words gave me permission, but it was my decision. I left you to wait alone. And that decision is the one that haunts me more than anything else. After all, I started going less and less. At first it was once a week, then once every 2, until even the nurses stopped expecting me. The phone would ring, calls from the home, but I let them go unanswered. I told myself I was too tired, too busy, too overwhelmed. But the truth? I was afraid to see you smaller each time, fading inch by inch, until one day there would be nothing left to recognize. I remember walking in once after too many weeks away. The room smelled of wilted flowers, the vase on your table holding stems that had long since gone dry. You were thinner, your skin pale, your eyes tired, but still searching for mine. And when you saw me, you smiled, as if no time had passed at all. That smile, gentle, forgiving, was more than I deserved. And yet, instead of staying, I found myself glancing at the clock on the wall, always glancing at clocks, as if the minutes I spent with you were a burden instead of a gift. That shame still burns in me even now as the same clock ticks in my own empty home. If I close my eyes, I can see it so clearly, you sitting with that scarf draped around your shoulders, a cup of tea cooling untouched on the bedside table, the sunlight filtered weakly through the blinds, casting stripes across your face. You held a book in your lap, though I doubt you could follow the words anymore. It was just something to keep your hands busy, something to fill the silence I left behind. She was with me that day, my wife. She stood in the doorway, arms folded, impatience etched on her face. When I lingered too long, she muttered, "She doesn't even know you're here, let's go." And I let her words sink in, let them harden me against the guilt that was already rising in my throat. But now I know better. You knew, Mum. You always knew. Maybe your memory slipped, maybe time blurred, but love never forgets. You knew when I was there, and you knew when I wasn't, and I chose the latter far too often. That choice is the weight I will carry until my own last breath. God, I can still hear the phone ringing that night. It was late. The house dim, the television buzzing faintly in the background. I answered with a weight in my chest I couldn't explain, and the voice on the other end was gentle but firm. "Your mother has passed." Just like that. No warning, no chance to say goodbye, only a sentence that ended everything. I dropped the phone, and for a moment the world tilted. My wife sat on the couch, remote in hand, the glow of the TV flickering across her face. She looked at me, sighed, and said, "Well, at least she's not suffering anymore." Her words were meant to soothe, but they landed like ice in my chest. I wanted to scream, to run, to claw back time. Instead, I just sat there, staring at the floor, the sound of that dial tone humming in my ears like a cruel reminder that I had failed you. And that was it, Mum. You left this world without me there, without my hand in yours, alone, because I chose absence. And nothing, not all the years since, not all the nights I've replayed it, has undone that choice. Well, now the years have caught up to me. I sit in this quiet house, the walls closing in, the air heavy with stillness. My joints ache, my breath shortens, and the clock ticks louder than it used to. Sometimes I talk to the empty chair across from me just to hear a voice in the room, but no one answers. The truth is, Mom, I am living the very life I once feared. The same frailty, the same silence, the same loneliness, except there is no one coming through the door for me. No footsteps in the hall, no knock, no soft voice saying my name. I finally understand what it means to wait in vain. And in that understanding, I see you more clearly than ever. Every moment I left you, every time I chose comfort over presence, it all circles back to me now. The punishment is not death. The punishment is living long enough to feel what I made you feel, and I know, deep down, I deserve it. You know, the house is emptier than it's ever been. She's gone now, my wife. Packed her bags years ago and walked out without looking back. Said she was tired of the weight I carried, tired of the silence that hung between us. The truth is, I didn't stop her. Part of me knew I'd already lost her the day I started drowning in regret. The children? They grew up fast. They call now and then, quick words on the phone, polite check-ins before hanging up. They have their own lives, their own families, their own worries. I don't blame them. But when I sit here in the evenings, the room stretching wide and hollow, I think of you, Mum. I think of how you must have felt in that narrow bed, watching the world continue without you. And now I know it too well. Sometimes I can't sleep. I lie awake in the dark, the sheets twisted around me, and I swear I hear you calling my name. Soft, almost like a whisper carried through the ears. The sound makes my chest tighten, my eyes sting, I reach out. But of course there's nothing there, only the cold night air and the hum of the refrigerator down the hall. I remember the nights in the nursing home, when the halls grew quiet and the lights dimmed. I imagine you lying there, clutching that scarf, listening to the tick of the clock and the shuffle of nurses' shoes. Did you whisper my name then too? Did you wait for a door that never opened? A thought tears through me, Mum, because now, as I wait for voices that never come, I know exactly how deep that ache goes. And the cruelest part is this: I could have changed it. I could have been there, but I wasn't. And now I carry your loneliness inside my own, night after night, with no one to blame but myself. I guess it's the clock that haunts me most. The steady tick, tick, tick in this quiet house. At night it feels louder, as if each second is reminding me of all the hours I never gave you. Sometimes I sit here with my eyes closed and I'm back in that nursing home. The same sound echoing through the hallways, filling the silence between us. The smell comes back too, the mix of bleach and stale food, the faint sweetness of flowers left too long in a vase. I can almost hear the distant ring of a nurse's cart being wheeled past, the rattle of trays, the squeak of rubber soles. Every sense pulls me back to that place, back to you waiting, back to me leaving. And now every tick in this house feels like judgment, a reminder that time doesn't give second chances, that the hours I wasted can never be reclaimed, no matter how much I beg the silence to forgive me. Truth is, I wasn't strong enough to stand against her words. My wife, with her sharp voice and practical tone, saying, "She won't even notice if you skip a visit. She doesn't know what day it is." I let those words settle in me like stones, weighing down the guilt until it sank deep out of sight. I told myself she was right. I told myself it spared me pain, spared us both. But now, looking back, I know I was just hiding behind her excuses. I wanted to believe her, because it was easier than facing your eyes, your silence, your need. And maybe that's the worst of it. Not that she said those things, but that I agreed. That I let her impatience become my own. That I let her hardness drown out your softness. And because of that, Mom, you spent your last days waiting, while I convinced myself I had done enough. To be honest, if I had to name the greatest act of cowardice in my life, it wasn't the times I avoided conflict at work, nor the moments I stayed silent when I should have spoken up. No, it was leaving you alone, Mom. Walking away from your bed, from your eyes, from your outstretched hand, and convincing myself it was mercy. That was my betrayal. I can still feel the weight of your hand slipping from mine, the warmth fading as I pulled away too quickly. That moment plays in my head like a broken record, each replay cutting deeper. And what makes it worse is knowing it didn't have to be that way. I had a choice. Every single time, I had a choice. And I chose myself. Now, sitting here, I see it clearly. Cowardice doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers in excuses. Sometimes it hides behind another person's words. And sometimes it looks like a son turning his back on the mother who gave him everything. That truth is heavier than age, heavier than silence, heavier than the loneliness I live in now. Still, I've come to realize that life has its own cruel justice. The punishment isn't quick, isn't sharp, it's slow. It's the echo of your own choices chasing you through the years. It's the silence that wraps around you when the phone doesn't ring, when no one knocks on the door, when the chair across the table stays empty night after night. That's what I live with now, Mom. The very thing I once feared, the thing I thought I was escaping by staying away from you. It's mine now. The frailty, the quiet, the endless waiting. Every day I sit here and feel what you must have felt, and I know it's no accident. It's the circle closing in on me. Maybe that's fair. Maybe it's the only way I could ever understand. But understanding doesn't erase the guilt. It deepens it. Because while I can finally feel what you felt, I can't undo what I did. I can't go back and sit beside you. I can't fill the hours I left empty. And that truth is the loneliest companion of all.
Maybe, somewhere beyond this life, you've already forgiven me. I picture you in a place where the light is soft, where no clocks tick and no doors close. I imagine you looking at me the way you always did, with that patient love that never seemed to run out, no matter how many times I've failed you. Sometimes I let myself believe that you can hear me now, that these words, scratched onto paper with trembling hands, travel somehow to where you are. I whisper apologies into the night, and for a second I almost feel your presence, as if you're standing just behind me, resting your hand gently on my shoulder. But then the doubt creeps in, because what if forgiveness isn't automatic? What if the silence I live in now is the proof that some mistakes leave permanent echoes? I want to believe in grace, Mum. I want to believe you still see me with mercy, but believing doesn't erase the ache of knowing I never gave you the one thing you asked for: my time. I still remember the way you smiled even on your weakest days. It wasn't a bright smile, not like the ones in family photographs. It was gentler, smaller, a curve of the lips that carried both pain and love. When the nurses adjusted your blanket or brought you water, you always thanked them with that same quiet grace. And when I walked in, no matter how late, no matter how short my visits, you gave me that smile too. It comes back to me now in the dark, clearer than anything else. The curve of your mouth, the tired sparkle in your eyes, the way you made me feel like a child again, safe for a fleeting moment. That smile haunts me because it was never angry, never bitter. You gave me kindness when I deserved anger. You gave me love when I gave you absence. And yet, maybe that's what love truly is. Not demanding, not punishing, just waiting. Waiting until the end, even when the end comes alone. Your smile is the memory I can't escape, and the one I hold on to, praying it means you forgave me, even if I can't forgive myself. After all, what else can I do now but beg?
Mum, if you can hear me wherever you are, please forgive me. Forgive the son who chose silence. Forgive the man who let fear and weakness guide him more than love ever did. I whisper it every night. The same 3 words I should have spoken when you were still here. I am sorry. I sit at this desk, pen shaking in my hand, and I speak to you as if you're across the table, nodding gently, letting me stumble through my confession. I see your scarf folded neatly beside me, the fabric worn thin, threads fraying at the edges. I press it to my chest, as if holding it could bridge the distance between us. But all I feel is absence, the absence I created. And I know no amount of apologies, no string of words, can undo the years I left you waiting. Still, I write them, hoping that maybe writing makes the silence less unbearable, hoping that somehow, through the weight of these words, you'll know I finally understand. God, tonight, the memories come like a flood. I can't hold them back anymore. I see you in that room, the pale walls closing in, the air heavy with disinfectant. I hear the rattle of carts in the hallway, the squeak of shoes, the dull thud of doors opening and shutting. I see your hands trembling, knitting half-finished scarves that no one would ever wear. I remember the phone calls I didn't answer, the letters I didn't read, the visits I cut short. I remember her voice, sharp, dismissive, telling me not to waste myself, and me nodding like a coward. And I remember the call that ended it all, the one that told me you were gone, and me sitting frozen while the world moved on without you. Now I write through tears that blur the ink. My chest aches, my breath shudders, and for once I don't try to stop it. This is the pain I should have felt then,
This is the grief I earned, and maybe letting it spill onto this page is the only way I can still sit beside you, even if it's decades too late.
You know what hurts. It isn't just the memory itself, but the sounds that cling to it. The click of the television in the living room the night the phone rang, the canned laughter spilling out while my world cracked open, the slam of the nursing home door behind me that first night, comedic like a final judgment. Even now, those sounds chase me through the silence of this house. Sometimes I hear them layered together, the laughter, the ringing phone, the creak of your bed frame, as if time itself is mocking me. I cover my ears, but it doesn't stop. Because the noise isn't out there, Mom, it's inside me. It's the sound of everything I chose not to face, playing back on a loop I can't escape, and the cruelest sound of all is your silence. The silence after I said, "I'll be back soon." The silence after I closed the door. The silence after the phone stopped ringing that night. Silence, more piercing than any voice. Silence that became my inheritance. If I close my eyes, I swear I can almost feel you here. The air shifts, the shadows soften, and I imagine you standing just behind me, resting your hand on my shoulder like you used to when words weren't needed. I picture you picking up this old scarf, draping it over me the way you always did when I was cold. I tell myself it's only memory, only guilt painting ghosts in the room, but then I feel warmth, faint, fleeting, and I want so badly to believe it's real. That for a moment across time and loss, you've come back to comfort the son who failed you, and yet, if it is only in my mind, then maybe that's enough. Because in that vision you are not angry, you don't scold, you don't turn away. You simply stand there, patient as ever, imagining me that love doesn't vanish with death. It lingers even in the rooms we once abandoned, and that lingering is both my salvation and my curse.
The truth is, your love never left me. Even when I turned away, even when I failed to show up, it lingered. I see it in the scarf you knitted, still folded in my drawer. I hear it in the lullabies you once sang, echoing faintly in my memory whenever the nights grow too long. I feel it in the way my chest tightens when I whisper your name. What breaks me is that I only recognize its power now, when it's too late to look you in the eyes and thank you. I used to believe love needed presence, needed proof, but yours kept breathing even when I abandoned it. It waited in silence, it survived my absence, and now it lives inside my regret, reminding me that love, real love, never lets go. Still, knowing this doesn't ease the ache, it sharpens it. Because what kind of son only learns the depth of his mother's love after she's gone? That answer will follow me until the end of my days. In the end, all I can do is write these words and hope they reach you somehow. Hope they float across the distance between life and death and find their way to where you are. Mom, if there is a place beyond this one, I pray you're waiting by a window that never closes, in a room filled with light instead of silence. One day I'll join you, not as the man who left too soon, not as the coward who turned away, but as the son who finally sits beside you with no clock ticking, no door closing, no excuses pulling him away. I'll take your hand and hold it until the end, and this time I won't let go. Until then, I carry you in this empty house, in this old heart, in every breath that still comes heavy with regret. This letter is my confession, my apology, and my prayer, and if you can hear me, Mum, know this. I love you. I always did. I just showed it too late. We've reached the end of this letter, and it's a hard one to let go of. A son who learned too late what his presence could have meant. A mother who gave her love even in silence. Listening to his words makes me wonder, how many of us are holding back something we should say? A call we keep delaying, a visit we keep postponing, a simple thank you or I love you we assume can wait. Truth is, time doesn't always wait. And when it runs out, all we're left with are the words we never spoke. So maybe tonight, think about the people who matter in your life. Reach out while you can. Sit with them a little longer. Hold their hand and let them know they're not alone. Because in the end, that's what stays with us. The moments we choose to share, not the ones we let slip away. Thank you for keeping me company tonight. Take care of yourself. And take care of the ones who might be waiting for you. Until next time.